stand as a people with one song, with one voice. We're a nation undivided and poised. We will take a stand and build our land in faith to defend what is ours. Here we are as a people with one heart for one cause. We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom rise and truth prevails, our land where there's hope for us all. Our land where there's hope for us all. We'll defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there. We'll defend our land. We believe in Nigeria and the promise she holds, and that one day we'll shine like the sun. We're a great nation. Though we are many people, different tribes, different tongues, we're united in our strength and resolve to uphold the honor of our land and for generations to come, and for generations to come. We'll defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there. We'll defend would sing like a song. From the north, south, east, and west, somebody say, if you believe to the say, with the foot alone, but all we have, yeah, yeah, yeah. With the foot alone, we believe in this our nation, Nigeria, and the promises she holds for us. And someday we would sing like a song. From the north, south, east, and west, somebody say, if you believe to the say, with the foot alone, but all we have, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, say we are, yeah, with the foot alone. I believe, and I know you do too, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, Heaven, Nigeria, stand up. Nigeria, stand up. Join me, say, yeah. We're a great nation. Oh, 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 yeah. Nation, and we know we'll get there. We'll We're a great nation. See, we only have with the foot on our head. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there someday.
Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Shibuna, I'm so happy to see you.
Same here.
No.
Thank you so much.
Not a minute late. That is typical of you.
Yes, very important to be here early.
I know. Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you again.
Yes, in October again.
I know, right? Coincidentally, or maybe strategically, Ayomide. It's good to have you. And this topic is, is quite interesting or very interesting.
Yeah,
Ayomide
I'm
says
looking.
it's strategic.
Yeah, it's quite strategic. I don't know, but when Ayo reached out to me, I was thinking of what topic can really inspire the audience, and that reflects our reality today.
I know,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. It's good to have you. You must have left a mark on us last October for us to remember that. Okay, it was Chibono that was here last October. I think we should have him again this year.
Yes, I'm happy to be remembered again. It shows that yes, that we're doing our work, and I'm very proud of Clan for how you guys have evolved over the years. It's really great to see what's happening at Clan,
Thank
honestly.
you. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Tell us, what have you been doing, like from that October till now? I've been following interesting things.
Yes.
Those
Okay.
brief us, give us more insights.
So, so in October, I was in Germany, and I was about to conclude my International Sustainability Academy Fellowship program in Hamburg, Germany. So in February, I completed it and I came back to Nigeria. So when I go back, everybody was asking like, "Why are you back to Nigeria? Why are you back to Nigeria?" I'm like, you guys don't understand, So I came back to implement the project I worked on in Germany, and
Mhm,
since then I've been pushing it with my team, um, and so far we've been making a lot of progress. So we are developing a mobile application that allows business owners to buy electricity from their smartphones, right?
mhm,
And the idea, the electricity comes from solar smart grids, and the idea is to digitize energy payments and allow business owners to have access to uninterrupted or reliable power, to run their businesses, especially productive use businesses.
mm,
Yes, and we want to do it in such a way that it will live beyond the status quo of energy supply in Nigeria in terms of manual payments and stressful and inconvenient payments. So we are trying to build a system that allows customers to access electricity in the most transparent and most convenient way. Yeah, so that's what we are building at Kiru. Apart from that, I was inspired to pioneer a sustainable energy technology conference known as Sustainable Energy Days. This was as a result of my exposure in Germany, and when I go back, or while I was about to return, I started thinking and asking myself, how can I, bring back, how can I spread the knowledge I've gained, from my fellowship program? How can I spread the exposure as well?
mm,
So that's when I decided to launch the Sustainable Energy Days conference.
mhm,
Initially, we planned for a physical event in Lagos, but we encountered certain challenges in terms of securing funding for the budget was quite extravagant, not really extravagant, but I would say it was quite heavy. Yes.
mm,
So it was hard to secure the sponsorships early on, and being the fact that this is the first time the event is taking place, many brands will not be so confident in quotes to
yes.
be sponsors. So they will all want to see, okay, let's watch this guy and what they are up to. Maybe next year we'll check out what they are doing or what they are up to. So we had to pivot to a virtual event, and that is coming up next 2 weeks, 2nd and 3rd of November. Yeah, so we have over 15 speakers confirmed already, and from different countries. We have people, speakers coming from Norway, South Africa, Canada, Germany, and majority Nigeria. Yes,
Mm,
and what else? Yes, so the conference itself is divided into six categories. You have the Smart City Forum, you have the Power Forum, you have the Hydrogen Forum, you have the Electric Mobility Forum, Energy Storage Forum, and the last one is the Financing Energy Forum. So these six key areas are the, will I say, the very, very key, yeah, they are key areas that will really impact sustainable energy development in
mm,
Africa going forward, right? So we are trying to create an avenue for anyone in any sector of the economy to participate. So because sustainable energy affects everyone,
of
right?
course.
So it's not something only for those in oil and gas or only for those in renewable energy space. It's something
Mm,
that affects, if they take light, if they take power now, or light, as we used to say in Nigeria, you know, everybody is like, if power goes off now, we can't have this webinar, right? So it
mm,
affects everybody, and if our cities are not in the right way they are supposed to be, we will be affected. Our waterways will be affected, our roads will be affected, our source of livelihood will be affected. So it's, these issues and these topics are really, really important, and it's very important that as citizens of Nigeria, citizens of a new Nigeria that is emerging, we need to start thinking ahead. We need to start having conversations, intelligent conversations that, that speak to where you want to go as a nation, because we need to have a collective vision of what Nigeria needs to look like. So when we have that collective vision of what Nigeria needs to look like, everybody can work towards that. But where there is no vision, even the Bible says that the people cast off restraint. So they cast off self-discipline, or they in Nigeria they will say they lose guard. So um, we need to have a vision for what we want Nigeria to look like, and we can only achieve that by spreading insights, spreading inspired thinking, basically. And that's what the conference is. That's the purpose of the conference. The purpose of the conference is basically to inspire new thinking, because we cannot move forward without changing the way we think, even in our personal lives and even as a nation. Yeah, so that's the major purpose behind the conference. And despite the challenges we encountered, we decided that we must, make this happen. Now we have more than 300 registrations. Confirmed, even before we've done like sponsored ads or any other official marketing per se.
Wow.
We've had about 300 people registered, and we are looking out for more. We are expecting up to 1,000 attendees, at least 500 to be on the online streaming platform, and then 500 to join on various social media platforms. Yeah, so I'm working with a team of over 17 volunteers, amazing people. Like they're taking off all the labor and all the stress. So I'm really grateful, and that's why I had time, to be part of this. But even if I didn't have time, I have to create the time, because this is clan. This is our clan,
Oh,
and I have to be, yeah, like today, like especially today or this week. This week has been very, very intensive for me, because we are like very close to the event. Plus the fact that I'm also planning a trip, so everything is just, crazy. Everything just happening at the same time. So I had a webinar this morning. I was a speaker on, and now this one. So, but I thank God for grace. Being able to handle all these responsibilities and still, be okay. Yeah. So
fantastic.
those
We're
are
so
all the
happy
things
to
I've been
have
working.
you.
Yeah, thank you so
We're so
much.
happy to have you, and we appreciate you. We appreciate that you made out time to be here despite your busy schedule. Thank you so much. We can't thank you enough. So I would
Thank you so
and you've been involved in very interesting things that I can't wrap my head around everything.
Mention one.
Yes, but we're happy to have you, and I want you to just briefly talk about your evolution as a person. I would want to, formally read your bio, but because you inspire me so much, I want you to just tell us about, how the journey started briefly. What are the things that inspired you to be who you are today? You know, was it the course that you studied? I know that I know this backstory, but for some of us that are joining us today and haven't heard from you before,
Yeah.
you know that I really respect what you do, and I'm inspired by, what you do. I want other people to see that, the sky is just the beginning, and not just you personally, how the things that you do are centered around impacting the world, the impacting Nigeria, impacting Africa, just impacting the world around you. So it's beyond you. So I just want you to, give us a brief background story about how, Shibana evolved.
Okay. I'll start from the very, very beginning, right? So I don't know when I was conceived exactly, but I was born on I was born on 13th February 1997, and to my parents. And I came into this world, like every other person. But as I was growing up, I started discovering that I had certain talents or gifts as a child. I was very different from my peers. I was different from my siblings. I was different from my community member, everybody. So my mom noticed that, and she started grooming me. So most of who I am today, I would credit that to my mom, because, will I say, 80% of my mindset I gained from observing her and also from listening to her. Not that my dad didn't play a role, my father played a huge role in terms of discipline, in terms of providing for us, in terms of, showing us the way to go as men, and all that. But my mom is very, very instrumental to my mindset. Yeah, and it's actually from the inside out. Is what you have inside that you bring out, right? So out of the abundance of what's inside, that's what you exhibit. Okay, in terms of, apart from your talents, but you need to add something inside for all you are and all your potential to be able to come out. And it's a continuous process. Like, it never stops. You keep developing your mind until the day you die, right?
Mm.
So I'm very grateful to my mom for that. So at a young age, I was already thinking about, sitting with other children from all over the world, like white kids, basically. When we watch home videos and I see white kids, I'm like, I want to be sitting among them, debating with them, talking with them. Those were my thoughts at that age, very young age. And as I was growing up, I was exhibiting leadership qualities, like taking my peers, my age grade, because I grew up in a village in Umuahia. So taking my
Mm-hmm.
peers to the bush to go and cut bamboo. We'll make football posts. I'll lead them to the bush. They will cut the bamboo. We come to the field. We fix it. Like, I always had that vision for bigger things and trying to make things to be international or standard. So normally we could have just played football on the field just like that. But when I watch the main football match, I look at the nice pitch and how everything is, and I start thinking of how can I replicate it in my own environment. So now that I'm grown, whenever I reflect back at those times, I now see the pattern. Like, because Steve Jobs said that you don't connect the dots looking forward, you connect the dots looking backward. So I always connect those dots, and I now see how my formation started, and how my development started. So getting into primary school, I was excelling very well in my academics. I was always topping my class, and I didn't top the class always when I was starting up, but I kept pushing, and then I started topping the class, and I maintained. So
Mm.
when I got to primary school, I went at primary four, primary five. I was made the timekeeper for the whole school because I was always punctual, and from there I almost wanted to start going to school alone, leaving my dad, because they were always trying to delay me. And as a timekeeper, you need to show
Of
lead by
course.
example, basically. So that sense of responsibility started forming at that early age. And by the time I got to primary five, I was made head boy, and then I took it on to primary six and went to secondary school. Now this is the most interesting part. I told myself that I don't want to school in Abia State where I grew up, because I know that Nigeria has 36 states, and if
Mm.
Nigeria has 36 states, it needs to be explored. Like, I can't school in Abia State. I told my parents, and just the way I said it, my parents bought like two forms, one for Nigerian Navy School and the other one for Air Force Military School. And for Air Force Military School in Jos, it's only boys' school, while the Nigerian Navy Secondary School was boys and girls. So, and I had a cousin as well, a lady who was about to also enter secondary school at that time. So I was like, okay, how do I choose? Okay, let's her take the form that has to do with boys and girls. I'll go for the one for only boys. That's how I selected Air Force Military School. And I don't know where the hell Jos was, but I knew that it was very, very far away from Abia. But I was very excited to go. So I wrote the exam, I passed. My name was published in the news, in the dailies for the first time in my life. My name was published on Punch newspapers, and it was a big thing for my family. Like, it was a very big thing for my family, because I don't know if anybody has been published before in the national newspaper. So it was even my uncle in Abuja that got the paper and saw my name and was like, "Wow!" Called my dad. Is this the same? Is this our Chibuna? I said, "Yes." So he's the one. And man, I was sleeping that day and you were just shouting my name, nicknames from different. I was like, what's happening? What's happening? When I woke up, they were like, okay, your name appeared here and all that. So I went for the interview, and I succeeded. Then four people were selected after our own interview, and I was among the four people from about 21 people that were selected prior to the main interview. So at the end of the day, I got into Air Force Military School, and that's where most of my leadership potential was actually developed more, because in military school everything is regimented. Basically
Okay.
time for wake up, time for food, time for naps, time for siesta, time for morning prep, afternoon prep, night prep. It's crazy. Like time for parade. Like everything is just regimented. So that's how I grew up. And from the age of 10 to the age of 16, I was in the military camp basically. And so I excelled as well in those areas. My leadership, I served as president of Mathematics Club and also president of the Fellowship of Christian Students and also the Intelligence Marshal of my time. So I had like three leadership positions as an SS3 student, and I was still able to manage all of them efficiently and effectively. So why am I saying all these things? I'm trying to hit the nail that at the core, I am a leader. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I'm thinking of, whenever something is not clear to me, or whenever I'm kind of in doubt about who I am or what I'm here on this earth to do, I always remember they call it first principles in engineering. From the first principles, I am a leader. So that alone allows me to now know, okay, where are the opportunities that are being abdicated. That is, where are the responsibilities that people don't want to take on? Because
Mm,
when, according to Jordan B. Peterson, the author of Beyond the Order, he said that opportunity locks where responsibility is abdicated. So
mm,
if there are opportunities, or if there are responsibilities that people don't want to take on, that's an opportunity for leadership. And that's where I try to fill the gaps, but not to do everything, because we all cannot do
mm,
everything, right? But the one I can do, I try my best to fill those gaps. Yeah, and then apart from the general leadership, the greatest one is personal leadership. And personal leadership is really the toughest, according to John C. Maxwell. It's really tough because you need to really discipline yourself, and that has been a battle for me. I've been fighting myself, fighting vices, fighting the circumstances where I was born, fighting everything, fighting my own deficiencies as a person, fighting my own weaknesses as a person, But I realized that every single way, like the mindset I had was strive to become a better person, every day. Just
mm,
strive to become a better person every day. So that alone is kind of suiting. So if I make a mistake, I try to dwell on the mistake a bit. Um, then I ask myself, okay, what is the lesson here? And then I say, okay, I won't do this again, and that's it. Then another thing that has really helped me so far is that I've been able to cultivate very key habits like reading, like taking responsibility. So reading, taking responsibility, those two habits have really helped me a lot, because whenever I'm in need of, let's say, I need something to help me to move to the next stage. I know that I need to consult a book. I know that it's inside a book, so I go look for the book, right? So that's why I'm always reading. This year alone, I've read about 8 books, and still counting. Yes, and then in terms of taking responsibility, personal initiative is very, very important. So it was personal initiative that drove me to also start my company. So from secondary school, I went to university. So in my last year in secondary school, I started asking myself, where will I like to work, or what will I want to do for the world with all the knowledge I have as a science student and all that. So I now started researching global platforms and global problems. And in SS3, we were allowed to, during our computer lectures, we were allowed to browse the internet in the military
mhm,
school. So we didn't have personal laptops, so we did never use mobile phones. So, but we had a computer lab, and we can access it only during our computer lecture. So I used the opportunity to research on climate change at that time, and that was 2014. And then in 2015, the Paris Agreement was announced, right? So you can now see how everything was just almost working together. So in 2014, I decided to switch from studying medicine at UNN. I changed my JAM application. Instead of studying medicine at UNN, I moved to study chemical engineering. And my parents were not happy about that, because everybody was like, oh, Chibuna, you're going to be a doctor. I was good in biology, chemistry, physics, but everybody was like, yeah, you're going to be a doctor. But deep down within me, I knew that my life was actually cut out for adventure. So I didn't want to just have a life that was so was so aligned. Will I say, what's the word? Is it predictable, right? So I didn't want to have that kind of a life that you can just predict. Yeah, so I wanted to explore and see how I can be part of the solution instead of just being a beneficiary of what others have done. I wanted to also create my own things. I wanted to also like bring out things, pet things. Yes. So I decided I was going to study chemical engineering to help fight climate change, basically. But based on that time, I was 17, so I didn't really have the understanding of okay what chemical engineering was all about. But when I got to university, I discovered that the lectures were not really focused about what I wanted, right? They were mostly talking about industry,
Yeah.
industry system, piping system, instrumentation, all those heavy engineering stuff. But yes, they talked about climate, but very little. That's in relation to just the industries, basically. And but I wanted something broader. I wanted to, so I challenged myself. I started doing my own research. I started attending conferences across Nigeria. So sometimes I had to miss lectures in order to travel to say Futa in on those states to go attend a conference on renewable energy, or to UNN, or to Gregory University. These are the universities I traveled to, or the countless times I came to Lagos through night bus to attend many various events and various conferences. So I've always tried to seek knowledge and all that, and that's how I developed. And then in my second, third year, I decided to start my first company, which was focused on recycling and renewable energy. So I don't have any prior business experience, but deep down within me, I knew that I wanted to do this and I wanted to do something. So that's how I started the company, and I started learning about business while doubling with my engineering degree. It was not easy at all, but I kept pushing. I encountered a lot of challenges. It was tough, really balancing my academics. But at the time, passion drove me almost away from my studies. And then within that same time, I lost my mom. So that was a very devastating time of my life, 2018. I was in third year and I had exams. My mom was very sick, and then she passed away during that period. So it was really crazy, and but God helped us to pull through, and I still kept pushing. And in fourth year, I went for my IT. And that's when I went for my IT in Lagos. I now got in touch with Lagos Business School, where I attended a training on leadership for sustainable waste management. So after, because I already had registered the first company I started, which was Recycle, right? Um, at Lagos Business School, after 1 month of the course, I realized that actually this recycling will not work for me right now, because the established players were financially capable, well experienced, and they had the contacts, But myself, I couldn't really do much except to replicate what has already been there, and I didn't want to just be doing the normal things. So after that conference, after the course itself, it was an eye opener for me to say, okay, it's time for us to switch. So we decided to switch to renewable energy. So in that same period, I've met my co-founder Benedict Okbala, and we started. He brought in a lot of when two heads are better than one. He brought in a lot of innovation, and that's why he's our chief innovation officer. So we started making energy kits for students where they can use to power their laptops and their phones back then in school, but we couldn't do a lot because it's quite hardware intensive and you need money to do hardware. And then if you are going to do hardware, you need automation, you need to be able to meet demand as it comes faster, right? If not, you are not really in business. So we decided to drop that, but we are still pushing, and we went for various incubation programs, various accelerator programs, and all those opportunities helped us to shape ourselves, our ideas, and all that. Then until COVID came. So when COVID came, everybody was grounded. So that allowed us to have some time to reflect. And in that same time, I participated in the Clean Technology Hub incubation program, where our company was amongst the finalists for the program, and we pitched and we received some money that helped us to now like do more. So it was the same that time I was about to leave the university. That was 2021. So I left uni in 2021 after the lockdowns, the strikes, and all those crazy stuff that delayed us. But at the end of the day, finally one graduated, and that's a huge relief. So yeah, a huge relief for someone who is very interested in trying to do things and doesn't want Nigerian system in quotes to pin them down. Yeah, so So we got the opportunity to travel to Germany for the International Sustainability Academy, and that's when I met Ayo in LBS. So I met
And
Ayomide in LBS. It was part of the was part of my cohort for the leadership. We are the first cohort actually for that particular program. So I met Ayo. Ayo was very, very, always in the front seats, very inquisitive, asking questions. Um, yeah, and very lively young person. So it was really interesting. And I think we are among the youngest, myself, him, Jennifer, and some other young people who were there. We are amongst executive directors, big people. We are the smallest or the youngest there. But it was interesting because that's multi-generational, you know,
yes,
multi-generational
nation.
networking. Yes, it actually helped us to elevate our thinking and elevate our personalities, and also helped us to see beyond just, oh, I'm young, I cannot do this or I cannot do that. So that's my journey so far. And so right now I'm actually in a transition period. So I'm exploring new ideas because if you are going to actually do
You
something
haven't
that,
told us about Germany.
oh, Germany is going to be it's going to be another webinar.
Just briefly tell us how you got the scholarship and things, just to,
Okay.
inspire people. Briefly, please.
Okay, so briefly, yeah. So my friend, so it's very good, right? Know people. That's one advice I would give. Know people. Be good to people. Be genuine. Be yourself. Be weird as you are. Just be yourself, because that's how you attract the right people in your circle. Okay. So my friend DC Okoli, he's based in Lagos. He's the founder of Dropper Systems. Dropper Systems is a logistics company, but not just a normal logistics company, but a tech-driven logistics company. Right? Yeah. So he sent me the link for that particular scholarship, and it was like, man, I know you can do this. Apply. And I was like, okay. And then when I checked out the application, I saw that they were only going to select how many then? They were only going to select 12 people in the world. I was like, are these guys serious at all? Like, do they know that a lot of people are going to apply for this? And how do they want to select just 12 people? And how am I going to compete? How am I going to be among these 12 people? So I was just asking myself, and I was really in doubt because then I had not graduated from school. I didn't have my bachelor's certificate. And yeah, it was, the odds were literally against me, right? But I just had the faith. So my sister as well, she told me, see, I believe in you. I believe that you can do this. So it's really about the support system, like, yes, I myself, I'm self-confident, right? I'm bold, I'm courageous, but there are some times, when you face certain, not really challenges, but when certain opportunities come to you, you might feel that you're not qualified for them, but you need your support system to remind you of who you are, because sometimes we tend to forget who we are because of maybe the challenges we face, or um, self-doubt, or self-sabotage, or self-rejection, or based on disappointments of the past. We tend to still see ourselves in those past experiences. So you need the right people in your circle to remind you of who you are, not just who you are, but who you are going to become, or who you are becoming. So by the time they tell you, CEO, they hype you and all that, you start to understand that, oh, see, I can do this actually, and then I put in my application. I made sure I put in the best application, satisfied my conscience that yes, this is my best. And I was selected for the first round. The second round, I said, oh, this second round, I'm going to put in my very best. So I added everything I could muster. I put pitch deck, I put everything I could, because I really wanted to be outstanding in the application process. Yeah, and afterwards I stayed about 2 months, and then we got an email that I was selected amongst. Okay, we had an interview, yes. So that was the second stage. Then the third stage was the main interview with the main organization hosting the scholarship. So the interview came, I participated, and afterwards they selected about um 36 people. And then out of the 36 people that participated in the interview, they will select the 12. That's crazy. And in my cohort, we were about 3,000 applicants, 3,000 in the whole world. So
Wow.
for them to narrow down from 3,000 to 300, so from 3,000 to 100, and then from 100 to 36, and then 36 to 12, that shows you how intense the application process was. It was really, really intense. At every point, like at every stage of the application, I received a particular Bible passage that helped me to actually apply. Like when I was applying for the second round, the one that came to me was in the book of Luke, I think Luke chapter 1 verse 12, that says, no, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible with God. Nothing is impossible. So that said, I put in my application. Yeah, and I got in. So, and it was immediately after, it was during COVID. So immediately after COVID, I went back to university to finish my bachelor's, and I finished my final year and all that. And then immediately after my final year exams, I traveled to Germany. So I was in Germany. I participated in various workshops, various trainings, excursions. Um, I also got the opportunity to attend COP26 because I worked with Student Energy on the Global Youth Energy Outlook as regional coordinator for Sub-Saharan Africa, where I helped coordinate research on the continent. And so that gave me the opportunity to go to United Kingdom last year for COP26. Where we presented the Global Youth Energy Outlook, the report itself. Yeah. So that's been my journey so far. It's been okay. I think I missed out on one. So I also represented Nigeria. I'm even forgetting. Like I also represented Nigeria at the first International Renewable Energy Youth Forum in Abu Dhabi. That was the first time I had the opportunity of traveling out of the country. That was a very huge moment in my life, honestly, because it was basically the fulfillment of my 8-year-old dream. When I was 8 years old, I had that. I remember I told you I had this idea and imagination that I would sit with
Yes.
people from different countries. Yes. Yeah. So that dream manifested when I was 22. Yeah. So you can imagine. And it was really great because from that particular moment, it opened other doors for me. Yeah. So,
I'm waiting for
and
my own to manifest.
yes, it will. It will. Yes. So, what I would say has helped me so far is the understanding that I have a destiny to fulfill, basically. So Steve Jobs, I always reference Steve Jobs because he's kind of a typical person that I've loved to be, I would love to become. So Steve Jobs said that you need to believe in something, either karma, destiny, God, universe, whatever. You need to have faith in something, destiny. You
Yeah.
need to believe that there is something that you were brought to this world to do. And from the books I've read this year, most of them, you know, tells me that, see, you need to contemplate on your mortality. Like, you're not going to be here forever. So every single day, even Steve Jobs said that he asked himself this question, like, if today was my last day on earth, will I do what I'm about? What will I be doing? What I'm about to do right now? Will I really be happy to do what I'm about to do now? And any time it was a no, he knew he had to change something. So every single day now when I wake up, I always now think ahead and say, okay, what if I die next week, or what if I die tomorrow? Like, what's going to be my legacy, or what will people remember me for? And that is really a sober thing to reflect on, because it's not that you shouldn't enjoy life, or not that you shouldn't be optimistic about the future. No, but you need to contemplate on your mortality, right? And always remember that, see, you don't have time. You don't have time to waste trying to be someone else, or you don't have time doubting yourself, because if you die today, like, all your talent, potential, everything is locked back in. You need to come out. You need to come out, no matter how imperfect it might look, no matter what people will say, no matter what. Yeah, they can call you names, but it's not their life. They've never lived your life. They don't know your challenges, they don't know your problems, they don't know where you're coming from, they don't know how you've suffered to be where you are right now. So you need to really step out. And honestly, it can be hard. It can be hard when you have faced so many challenges and you've faced so many setbacks in life. It can be very difficult for you to actually say, okay, I want to step out again. But see, it's calling you. Your destiny is calling you. You need to step out and meet it head on. And it's never going to be easy. Like, it's a journey, right? All of us are on this journey together. I myself am on my journey. And sometimes when I think about how long it's going to take, it can be very, very demoralizing sometimes, when you tend to see, let's say, you try to start looking at your colleagues or your peers and how far they've gone so far in their own lives. You might want to compare yourself, but that's an error. Don't do that. Recently I started understanding that if you compare yourself with other people, it means you don't have a vision for your life. It means you don't understand exactly what it costs for you to actually become who you are supposed to be, right? So you need to be in your own originality and focus on that. even if you've not figured it out, understand that you have something special, right? And that you are going to deliver it into this world. So as long as you have that understanding in your mind, and it's at the back of your mind, and you're always thinking about it, right? You are going to actually find that particular thing. Even Steve Jobs said, again, I quote, that if you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle. Yeah, so that's my journey so far. Yeah, but
Thank
there
you.
are so many other things that I try to cut out because of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shibun. I'm convinced that, it was a great idea for me to ask you to introduce yourself instead of reading your bio verbatim.
This is the longest introduction I've ever done on any platform.
And trust me, I've enjoyed it because I've learned a lot of, Steve Jobs quotes that would help my own life too. So you've told us now to be our original selves. You've also mentioned that, we should always have a reflective mindset, and, to believe in something, you have to believe in something. And I don't quite agree. I strongly agree with everything that you have said. And like I've mentioned before, here at Clan, we continue to root for you. You continue to be an inspiration to us all, and we continue to wish you the very best in everything that you have set out to do. Your win is our win, and I just wanted some of us to kind of like tap in to how far you have come and what your journey has been so far, from a little boy that had an idea and has always been a leader inborn for Umar here. And, now he's seeing the world, so it's great, and I know in the past I've tried to, introduce some younger people to you. I don't know if they reached out, just because, like you said, it's in the association that you make. And, for younger people, if you are able to make those association early in life, it just makes your journey to greatness a bit shorter. You get there shorter. So thank you for, talking to those people that I refer to you. Now, Chibuna, let's go to why we're here.
Yeah.
I read a little about Smartcities, and being a Nigerian, thankfully, I've been to some other parts of the world. Being a Nigerian, it seems abstract. But I feel like the word, or something that is, when you're far reaching.
Oh my God.
That's a good phrase. So tell us, what makes a smart city?
Thank you very much for that question. Okay, so what makes a smart city is basically an environment that is livable, an environment that allows people to become their best selves and unleash their potential, an environment that allows people to share ideas and live happy, fulfilled lives, basically. So that's what I would describe a smart city to be. And then every other thing that facilitates or makes that happen is just an add-on, say the technology that is used to enhance quality of life. Yes, but the major thing that has to be understood is that smart cities are focused on improving the quality of life of living in where they are. So that's basically what a smart city is. A smart city is a place, any place at all. It can even be where you are right now. It can be the city where you live in at the moment. As long as that city is progressive, as long as that city is thinking about how to improve the quality of life of people living in that city is actually a smart city. So yeah, I can understand what you mean by when you compare to other developed climes and Africa and Nigeria, it's just crazy. It seems far-fetched, to see okay what a smart city is. When you look at the high-speed network of commuting or mobility, when you look at the strong internet connectivity, you look at very efficient systems. It seems like we are so far away from that. Yeah, but we are not too far away, I would say. However, what really counts right now is are we willing to say we want to reach there? Like I said in my introduction, we need to have a vision for where our country needs to be, and we need to have that vision as a collective, because when we have the vision as a collective, everybody is working towards that vision. So if you are starting a company, you are starting a company that allows you to key into that bigger strategic vision for the nation, right? If you are starting an initiative, it's also in line with the bigger vision or strategy of the nation. Yeah, so that's what a smart city is basically: improving the quality of life, making people to live wholesome lives, um, achieve their potential, and contribute meaningfully to where they live. Yeah, that's what a smart city is.
Okay. So from what I've read, there are some smart cities in the world would include Shanghai, Dubai. I saw London, but I'm not sure that I completely agree with that. So I'm not going to state London. Singapore, which I've heard a lot about. Unfortunately, I've not
Yeah,
been there
Singapore,
yet, but hopefully soon. And
hopefully.
also Norway.
Mm.
Uh, some of the smart cities. So tell us how does Africa come in all this? Which African country is, is at the forefront? Do you know that is at the forefront of, this development? And how long do you perceive that it will take us here in Nigeria?
Mm. Okay, so I'll start with this: that about 40% of um, people living in sub-Saharan Africa live in cities, right? And from pre-colonial times, in fact, from not really from pre-colonial time, even prior to pre-colonial times, right? We've had major cities like in the kingdoms, like the Benin Kingdom, right? In the Nok region, in North Nok region, that's in the northern part of the country, and also in Igbo Ugu, in that is in the eastern part, and then you also have the Yoruba kingdoms, right? So, so these kingdoms, they also had their own cities. Do you know?
I know,
But then
of
the
course.
colonial masters came and they told us that, oh, we're living in bushes and all that. That's just a big lie. So, despite the fact that we don't have skyscrapers then, we still operated, we still had cities amongst these kingdoms, right? And what characterizes cities is the fact that number one, they are full of economic activity, they're full of people, they're full of energy, they're full of creativity, a mixture of people coming and going. You find a lot of foreigners in cities. So the question is not if Africa is a good ground to have smart cities. The question is, why have we lost our smart cities? The cradle of civilization started in Africa, in Egypt. You know, you will agree with me that in that time, Egypt, I would say, is the greatest smart city project ever. Even up to now, we can see the
I know.
pyramids,
I know.
right? Yeah. So what it means is that for Africa, we need to retrace our steps and ask ourselves, where have we lost our track in terms of development, and then find our way back. Now, going to some of the countries in Africa that are charging or leading the way in smart city development. Number one is South Africa. Number two is Kigali. Sorry, Rwanda. Another one is Kenya. Then you have Morocco, you have Egypt, and then you have Mauritius. I think Mauritius or Mauritania, any of them. And then you have Nigeria. So I'm sure some people, we are not as surprised we hear that I mentioned Nigeria, but still we're actually not where we are supposed to be. Nigeria is supposed to be the leader in all these initiatives. We have a Nigerian Smart City Initiative policy that was published in 2015, but I don't think so far it has been implemented, right? And it focused mainly on using ICT technologies to improve internet connectivity and access to digital solutions. But so far, it's not really effective. And then you have the smart city blueprint of Rwanda, which outlines about 10 factors that will enable smart cities to thrive, not just for Rwanda, but for the whole African continent. So basically, we are trying to see how we can develop. And then if you watch Wakanda, that's Black Panther, you can see the futuristic, representation of what Africa can actually look like. That is maintaining our cultural heritage, maintaining who we are as a people without throwing that away, and then creating our own
Unique.
systems and unique buildings, unique structures, unique systems, unique way of technology, everything unique, that suits us as a people. And that's actually what will make Africa to stand out. And we're at a very huge advantage in these times. Number one, because we are faced, or we are enveloped by technology technological development, right? So we don't need to start reinventing the wheel again. All we just need to do is adopt. We don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel, right? We only need to use current technologies, improve on them, basically. So it's at a huge advantage in terms of how can we facilitate and accelerate development for Africa and for African cities and communities, not forgetting them. And then you talk about the financing. Where will this finance come from? So mostly in Africa, we're always looking at the West or we're looking at the South or whatever for our financing of projects. But honestly, we can actually do that here in Africa without depending on external funding. Because if we take it as a priority and say, see, this is our vision, the United Arab Emirates did it. I don't know if they took money from the West or something, but I'm sure that even if they did, majority of the money came from them, right? So we need to start in our leaders need to start thinking ahead. Like it's really about the vision. When our leaders have a vision, like when our leaders have a vision for what Nigeria should look like, whenever we get to that stage where we have leaders that see Nigeria of what it could become, that's when our development will come. That's when we are going to prioritize these initiatives, and that's when everybody is going to work together. Because right now it seems like everybody's just trying to do the status quo, just do it as it is, construct roads, put pipe on water, just
Yeah.
fix some parts for electricity, just fix some parts of the roads, just do this. We've not actually come and say we want to achieve this. Now other nations like in the Middle East are talking about how to become a 100% digital economy by 2030. That is everything digital, no manual anything, every single thing digital, every process, every arm of government, everything is going to be digital, and they're aiming to be first in the world. You can imagine. So those kind of ambitious targets, not just ambitious target, but actually meaning to do it. Actually meaning to do it. These nations, especially, I really draw inspiration from the Middle East because it was the first place I traveled to, and it was really inspirational to even see how the development is, topping even that of Europe and America. Honestly,
Yes. Oh, yes.
the only people comparing to them can be Asia, because China, the Asians are really doing amazing stuff. I've not been to Asia yet, but from what I've seen, through research, the Asians are really working so hard to, to improve the quality of life in their communities and in their countries. Yeah. So what I feel we need to do is that Africa has that potential, but we need to leap from talking about potential to actually the practical thing. Leveraging our natural resources, our wonderful climate that is not prone to natural disaster or earthquakes or all this stuff. You know, Despite the recent flooding that is happening, ravaging the country as a result of climate change and its effects, and also as a result of negligence of our governments in putting in place the right structures, and like not really taking this thing seriously. Because you don't take it seriously, that's why we are feeling the effects now. Okay, so that's the major thing I have to say concerning what smart cities should look like in Africa, where we are coming from, where we lost it, and how we can actually trace our steps back, and moving forward, how we need to think ahead. And again, it's not just about who are the leaders. The leaders, that's you and that's me. Individually, we need to start thinking ahead. So we need to stop thinking at the basic level of what am I going to eat today, or what am I going to wear today, or where am I going to sleep today. We need to start thinking 10 years, in decades, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Where am I going to be? Where will Nigeria be? How do I want my family to be like? Where do I want my children to study? What kind of mindset will my children have in 10 years, in 20 years? So we need to start having these conversations and start thinking in that direction. And and then learn from examples. Learn from examples. I was part of a webinar today where they talked about key smart city initiatives in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And it was so inspiring to see the way these guys are thinking. The projects that they are launching and funding, it's crazy. It's crazy, the ambition, how they think. So I really want to, for me, if I want to convert anything from them, I want to convert how they are able to come up with this kind of ideas and initiatives. How they're able to think beyond the status quo of what's currently obtainable in the world today, and push the boundaries of technology and innovation without necessarily inventing everything by themselves. you
Of
know.
course.
So that's the way I want us to adopt it as Africans. We need to leverage what is already there and then even push ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic, Tribuna. I like your explanation, because for me, when I was reading about it, it was a bit, dicey. So I was thinking
Yeah.
ICT, I was thinking like, big terms, technology,
Yeah.
and all. Now you've broken it down to having an efficient city, having, transportation that works and works in time, and of course, you're giving us a very good example, which is Wakanda. I agree completely, because in that story, I mean, it's fictitious, but we can see that the development was, especially when the there were like two characters that were walking on the street at some point. So it was
Mhm.
still very unique to us, so to speak.
Yeah.
And but you could see like actual futuristic, edifices, so to
True.
speak. Yeah. So, but yeah, and I
Transport
also
system.
agree, yeah, I also agree with what you said about looking back, because I've read and I've seen documentaries where you see that in this area that we now call Nigeria, and in Africa at large, we had a system that was working for us. But
True.
unfortunately, we cannot continue to dwell on the fact that we were not allowed to kind of like grow at our own pace. You've also mentioned the Asians. I agree with you, because I was in Europe recently and I kept thinking to myself that, Asians have surpassed these people, Asians have surpassed these people, Asians have surpassed these people, because it's crazy what they're doing really now. And the Saudis, the Middle East, it's crazy what they're doing. And you can see that they still try to keep bits and pieces of themselves,
Exactly. So yeah.
yes, even in like the futuristic skyscrapers, you still see a
Mhm.
touch of their own culture,
Culture. Yeah.
their own regal, the way that they think. And I also think that it's okay to change your mind, because I mean, back in the day, you would hear that they were known for just living lavish lifestyle, but now look at that lavishness, like you said, that the way that they think, they've been able to channel it, towards things that benefit their own community. So when they're thinking, we want to be the best at everything that we do. So, but what are the challenges apart from the government? I don't want to talk about the government today.
Yeah.
What are the challenges? What are the things, or the things that you think that are slowing us down or are drawing us back as a people?
Okay, so for you to have a smart city, right, you need to have a smart citizenry. That is, you need to have smart people or smart citizens. Okay, so it's not really about, I really find it funny when I read about smart cities and I'm just seeing tech, 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 tech. Yeah, tech is
Mhm.
there, honestly. But tech is very important, but tech is not everything. You know, if you subtract tech, or if you allow tech and subtract people, you know,
Yeah,
tech is just there because you need. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about it. The lights will come
no
on soon.
problem. Okay.
Yeah. So you need smart people or smart citizens, because I won't say smart people. We are all smart, right? But
Yes.
you need the smart I'm talking about now. It's not really about book smart or business smart or street smart. I'm talking about here in the thinking, in the mindset, in how people see or how people approach life, basically. How receptive are we to technology, how receptive are we to and tolerant are we to ourselves. So that's one thing. And then so in terms of the challenges that we're facing right now, that are going to be huge hindrances to development, is number one, the huge gap in education and information. So education is very key. And when I was preparing my submission for this webinar,
Mhm.
I understood that from my research so far, and also from my observation, I understood that we lack a a basic way of transmitting knowledge apart from schools. So apart from schools and apprenticeships, like in the Igbo apprenticeship system, and in other parts of the world where, a master teaches um, the apprentice, and then the apprentice becomes a master and raises other apprentices, right? Then we now have the school system. But apart from that, we need a community system of education. And what do I mean by that? We had that pre-colonial times, whereby our elders, they were in charge of telling us folk tales and stories, that transmit our culture, our values, and our ethics, of our where we come from, and transmit it from generation to generation, right? Um, so now, you now have that we all depend on universities or primary schools or schools to get our education, right now,
Formal
or just the
education.
internet. Exactly. But what we need is not just the Western education or the normal school education. All we need is a community education system. And what I mean by that is our communities, in terms of, because from the family, that's where you now have um, clans, you now have a village, you now have a state, you now have a country, like, and a city, and then a country, right? So from those fundamentals, it needs to start from the family, and start incorporating smart citizenry mentality, basically. So you find that stewardship is the first thing I will say, right? It's very difficult for you to find people who are true stewards of their communities and their environments now, right? It's very difficult to see. And what do I mean by that? For example, throwing of waste on the floor. Some people feel, oh, it's not my responsibility. It's the government. Who is government? The government is your neighbor, or your brother, or your cousin, or your village man or statesman, who is going to be working at the waste collection, waste collection hub or whatever, and they are the ones who are going to pay for that particular menace caused by throwing dirt on the floor or throwing trash somewhere that it's not supposed to be, right? And now, when I talk about community education, so how do we teach people not to do things in those negative ways, right? How do we teach them not to do those things without depending on the government? What are the ways we can collectively teach ourselves, to do the right thing, basically, to be good stewards of our environments, to be good stewards of our communities, and that, again, that will now lead me to where I'll talk about the traditional aspect of education, like the main real time education, like book education now. We need to start having community libraries. Many right now people don't read again. And I've heard the adage that says, if you want to hide something from a black man, you put it inside a book, right? So you can imagine that's very insulting. We need to start reading. Like, we need to read, and if we don't read, we cannot have the ability to imagine and the ability to look beyond where we are right now. And because there's a huge lack of reading culture in our system, that's why our government leaders, because they don't research, they don't have the updated knowledge to make the right decisions. That's why you still have somebody in the National Assembly or in the House of Representatives, kicking against the adoption of electric vehicles, that it will affect the oil and gas economy. How, for crying out loud? So why? Because they don't understand the science. They don't understand how these things work. They don't want to know. They don't literally. They don't want to know, right? And that's how it is for so many people. We tend to glorify ignorance. We tend to be happy being ignorant than taking up the stress to actually get to know. So that's something that needs to change. And we can only change that by imbibing a reading culture in our communities. And we can do that by, a suggestion I have is by establishing community libraries. And how can we establish community libraries? Remember, if you go to a typical village, you'll find a town hall, right?
Yeah.
Now, look at this idea. Imagine you have bookshelves in that town hall, and every Sunday evening, the community rings a bell or beats the gong or whatever, and every child from age 5 to 16, or every child from age 5 to 20 who is in school, will take their books and go to that particular town hall. Think about it. And study
Wow.
for, like, say, 2 hours, right? Now, this is exclusive from what they are taught in school, right? Or for those in boarding schools. who understand what the night prep, morning prep, and all that. So imagine that in a community like this, we have that kind of system whereby every Sunday by 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. that bell is rang, and all the children, and then starting from the family, the dad says, "Hey, get your books, start going to the town hall. You must be there. If you are not there, you don't come back to this house." Are you getting?
Yeah.
Everybody moves to that particular. Even if you don't want to read or you don't like to read, just go there. And by the time you get there are people, let's say, older adult, older youths, or older people who are there to monitor and to supervise and ensure that the students or the children are reading or doing something productive, whatever it is you are doing. You must be doing something. Either you are creating art, or you are building something with your hands, or you are making crafts, or you are reading, whatever, but you must be engaged productively, basically. So with that concept, and then you know that habits are things that we do repetitively without even thinking about them. Now imagine that you have children reading every Sunday, every single week for 1 year. You have already built in them a reading habit. They can never change from it. And from that particular point, that's where we start having our own Elon Musks, our own Bill Gates, our own Steve Jobs, because those kids are brilliant and talented and blessed by God. And by the time you expose them to knowledge, don't just normal books, encyclopedias, textbooks, big books. Don't just limit them to what they are studying in school. Those books should be wide and full of knowledge, things that make their minds, that boggle their mind to think, right? And then by the time we can have such community learning systems, we can actually drive development from the communities. So that's where I talk about smart cities and communities. So not just smart cities in quotes, but smart communities. And then when you have an informed smart citizenry, right, they can now start demanding for their rights. They can now start demanding their councillors and local government officials and House of Reps and all that. They can now start demanding of development and ask them, where is the budget for the water system? Where's the budget for the roads that we were asked to build? Why has it not been built? Why? Because they are informed. Another idea: dissemination of information. How do we disseminate information? Yes, we have technology, but not everybody has access to the mobile phone, right? But and some, like in our culture, it's not at a certain age you're not even allowed to use mobile phones, say for children. So how do we keep them informed about the history of their community, about the history of Nigeria, about history of Africa, about history of the world and economics and how the world works, and how, you know what I mean? We don't need to wait till they get to university to
Yes.
start reading all things on their own. They need to start knowing already, so that by the time they get to university, these guys now start taking up initiatives on how to solve problems, instead of how to become a doctor, or how to become a nurse, or how to become a lawyer for the sake of becoming a nurse or a doctor or lawyer. They start thinking about problems to solve. They start thinking about problems to solve, and from there, solutions to be better, solutions to be created. Yeah. So
Okay.
those are some of the gaps I've seen, and these are my suggestions on how we can actually mitigate them. Yeah.
Okay. So now I love the idea of the community libraries in town halls. This is something that even we, our clan, can look at doing, just, not depositing, but, getting
Yeah.
educational materials from people and just, taking to these places, and maybe we can have a librarian there that can, hand books over to children, and just, keep it open, because you never know who would stumble on, vital information, and that can change our lives in this country. But for our own level, now you talk about the generation to come, like for you and I, the youth, say age 21 to or 20 to 45.
Yeah.
How do we make that mark?
Hmm.
Lastly.
Okay. Okay. So how we can do that is actually by having this kind of conversation. So I'm very certain that those who join us in this call are in that same age range, right? And we
Yes.
can so I applaud what Clan is doing by finding seasoned speakers and having these conversations. It should really be a regular thing for us right now, because we are at that stage where our country, as Nigeria, is emerging into the new Nigeria, or into the next phase. Because actually truly, where the world is now, you know where the world is now, we are not in the past again. Like, we are really advancing so fast. So Nigeria needs to evolve along with it. And because we as citizens are already evolving, like, we already evolved because, we have access to information 247 from all over the world. You know what's happening in UK. Everybody knows what's happening in UK. The Prime Minister
Yes.
has abdicated her position, right? How? How did they know? Social media. How did they know? News, internet, very fast. So we're already advanced like the rest of the world. I can be here, but I'm in UK or in US or that kind of a
Definitely.
thing. Exactly. So we need to also move our nation to that fast pace where we are right now in our own age bracket as young people,
Not just
and
in
we can do
disseminating information, but
yes,
in every other aspect.
every other aspect. Yeah. And what we need right now is active participation, active citizen participation in government, in decision making, in activism. We need people to step up. So beyond just your traditional work that you do to earn your own living, do something extra, volunteer, participate.
Exactly.
Do you understand? Be a
Yes.
voice. Use your social media, be a voice. If you see something that is not working, speak about it. If you can't do anything, speak against it.
Exactly.
Let's when you see something not working right, say something about it. Because by the time we just keep quiet and we don't talk about all these issues, they keep multiplying, and we feel the effects in the near future, and our children as well. So again, we need to think beyond ourselves as young people. We need to start thinking about our children, because, man,
Of course.
if by the time I have my own kids, they will live in this they will live in this world, right, that we are right now. So we need to create a world that's actually suitable for them, because when we leave them here, we need to provide systems and create that environment that they too can thrive, right? So we need to start thinking beyond our own selves. And ever since I started thinking beyond my own self as a person, as I have to provide for myself. When I started thinking, okay, I need to provide for my children. That thought actually sparks a higher sense of responsibility in me, because now you know that you're not just working hard for yourself, but you're working hard because of your future
The
generation, basically.
generations to come.
Exactly. So that's the same way our governments need to think. Our governments need to start thinking, how do we secure the future of our future generations? How do we secure their future? And by the time we start thinking in that way, that's where we can actually achieve development, because that's what's happening in other developed climes. Developed climes are the way they are because they have ancestors and forefathers thought about how do we secure the future for our future generations, right? And by that way, when they passed on the legacy, and that way, that's how the development continues. Yeah.
Yes. You cannot overemphasize that, what you have just said. You see even structures, just structures you see, overseas, and you know that the person that put this structure in place wasn't thinking about today, was thinking about, hundreds of years to come. So, Chibudon, we don't want to hold you any further, but, just very lastly, how long do you think it will take us to, as a country, I have two questions. How long do you think it will take us to get there? And, if all things being equal, let's imagine that everything is right in this country. And then secondly, what are the plausible cities you have in mind that, in Nigeria, that will get there faster than the others, based on maybe, the economy, how fast it's growing presently? Chibuna, we can't hear you.
Oh, my mic is on mute. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had my mic on mute. So I don't really have a particular figure to per se. I won't agree that I have a particular figure to quote, but let's say if we have the right leadership in place from 2023, right? Let's give ourselves 2 decades, 20 years. Yeah. So say by 2042,
Okay.
we can actually have a developed continent, a developed Nigeria, if we really want to, because now we have all the resources and the technology we need. All we just need is the right leadership and the right resources and the right people to take the lead. So give or take 20 years, based on I'm saying 20 years based on our current trajectory in development, taking Lagos State, for example, taking Abuja, for example, taking Anambra State, taking Oyo, taking Delta, and some Port Harcourt, and some other very fast Kano State, and some other fast developing cities and states in Nigeria. So taking these states and their economic trajectory, I believe that we can actually get there. but we need the right leadership in place, and it's a collective vision. We need a collective vision as a people. So it's not that Kano is doing something else, Lagos is doing something else. We need competition. Like Kano should be competing with Lagos, Abuja, like a very competitive environment. That's what we need. Very competitive. So all the states will be competing. Okay, who is the most sustainable state? Who is the cleanest state? Who is the most developed state? Who is the fastest transport state? Who is the state with the highest electricity? By the time you start having those metrics, by the time we start having that kind of competitive environment, honestly, you will see the rapid development in this nation. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Chibino, please, do you have any little time to just take a question? Let me just ask. They might not even want to ask. Hello everyone. Please, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box quickly, because we need to wrap it up and call it an evening. If you have any questions, please let us know. So, Chibino, thank you so much for being with us today. Of course, it's always a pleasure to have you, and we always learn and rub minds and share ideas whenever you're around. Thank you so much. We can't thank you enough. We cannot thank you enough. So, in the absence of a question, I think we'll just leave you to go about your other agendas for today. Thank you so much.
Yes, have a wonderful evening and weekend. Bye.
Thank you so much, Chibuna.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We've come to the end of today's webinar. I'd like to say to everyone, we're so grateful that you were here today. And I hope that, each and every one of us have learned one thing or the other. I mean, Chibino has to go and attend to other things. If not, he would have given us the whole evening. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. We've come to the end of today's program. We'll be having another webinar by God's grace next month, hopefully around this time. And we'll be happy for you to join us again, because, when we share ideas like this and rub minds like this is where great, innovations come from. So thank you. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. Thank you.
There's a land where there's no